Hello and welcome to another edition of SuperCoach Edge. And I guess there's only one thing that needs to be spoken about from the top of the show, and that's paying homage to the pig, the myth, the legend himself, Clary Oliver. Fancy delivering a 176 after scoring 200 plus twice against the Crows previously. He really does prove that lightning can indeed strike 3 times. I mean, this is the sort of stuff, Liam, that we're going to be telling our grandkids as they select their first SuperCoach teams. Crazy, crazy stuff. And I imagine you enjoyed piggybacking Oliver to the moon as much as me.
Yeah, it was good. I remember like messaging you. I think it was at like quarter time being like, he's on 60 or something. And then it was like half time, like he's on 120 or whatever. I don't know what it was, but it was massive. And like, he's going to do it. He's going to get to 200 again. So actually, you know what? I'm a bit disappointed. 176, good.
Yeah.
Should have been 200. No, massive scores. And yeah, we're going to be like old people like, I remember when Clary Oliver scored 202 times in a row.
The glory days. The days when we used to wear an onion on my belt.
Which was the style at the time. And in those days, nickels had pictures of bumblebees on them. Give me 5 Bs for a quarter, you'd say. No, where were we?
But yeah, we were both there, like checking out the scores, going back and forth, cracking the whip on the back of Piggy Oliver, like get up, and he's like, oi, 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 oi. As he was rocketing to the moon. What a ripper. It was good. Well, it was fair to say a nice round for both of us for once, and doubly so for you as we find out why as we go to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, yes, fair to say that as to the reason as to why you had such a good week twice over, Liam, is evident in the fact that I'm going first in this segment, which means that you did come out on top over me, victorious. Nice. So congratulations. And I told you it was going to happen, and I didn't know it was going to happen so quickly, but it has. So maybe Nank and Blitzarves, the pod ruck facelift that you had the other week is paying dividends.
Hopefully it continues.
Yes, takes you to the moon. Well, in terms of the score this week, quite happy because it was my highest overall score to date for the season, and it was 2,610. So just absolutely stoked that my primos put in a solid week altogether. So no RDOs, no days off, all together now. It was massive. So the only chink though in my armor was winning all but one. It always happens, all but one of my head-to-head matches, which was in, of course, had to be my own cash league, as luck would have it. So I ended up coming up short to my opponent in my league because they scored a whopping 2,731. Just insane. So at least I had no chance.
Yeah, but still rough.
Yeah, still rough, absolute rough. But all in all, super happy with my performance. That aside, I mean, you can't win them all. You can't have a clean sweep, and I mean, if you do, then you're just having a blinder. But not to be, so that's not too bad there. So bigger picture stuff, looking good. But overall ranking, that is part of the bigger picture stuff, and I am now ranked 4,079th overall. And we can both compare this, Liam, because we did a bit of comparison off air with regards to how much ground we've made up over the weeks. And I have now officially cut my ranking down by 10,000 spots since round 10. 10 and 10.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. So hoping you can only continue from here, as the ultimate aim at this stage is to at least try and make the top 1K or the, what do they call it? The, is it 1,100? Is that when you get the socks and the KFC?
Yeah, I think it's
key ring
1,100th.
Yeah, or something along that line. So hopefully.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, have to double check that. But that, regardless, that's sort of the what I'm hoping to achieve, the goal, the ultimate goal. So the trades on the weekend. So I traded out Jeffrey to Baker, Liam Baker, which was the pod that we were both looking at, and it looked dire early on. But thankfully, he was given more time in the midfield and produced a handy 90 and kicked a couple of snags as well, which was good. And probably helped as well by Dusty going off due to hamstring awareness. They became aware of the fact that he's got 2 hamstrings, which I know it's strange, but thankfully he went off because of it. But outside of Baker, we were both kind of looking at different pods. So we want to sort of mix it up and not go too out there, by bringing in the likes of I don't know, someone that just pops into my head, like a Jed Buse, for example. You wouldn't be going for blokes like that, would you? So like a pod that's produced a bit of a score across the journey. So Baker is one of those, and he scored quite well since, I think it was about round 9, where he was switched into Jaden Short's role off half-back. And yes, he was one who was handy to come in. Outside of him, though, we both were looking at different options.
Yeah.
And I was looking at Timmy Taranto as a particular option, and I thought coming off his injury, he had some back issues, and I know back-related injuries are hard to heal, and I thought probably too much of a risk. Value option, low sort of 400K. He was sort of my other play. Ended up performing quite well as well, so I would have done all right there had I gone down that route. But outside of that, my other play was potentially trading Hobbs to Libba. And I was kind of kicking myself seeing that first game where Libba absolutely tore it to shreds. But if I went down that route, it would have left me with no bench cover, which at this stage of the game, this stage of the season, value highly with so few trades in hand. So see how it pans out. Could be a sliding doors moment, but I think having that cover on the bench, especially Hobbs as a DPP player across midfield and forward, should keep me sort of in good stead if injuries do strike. So hopefully, knock on wood, that they don't. But other trade, which funded that trade, was where? To D'Ambrosio. Massimo D'Ambrosio. What a name. So whilst I didn't necessarily... Oh, what a player. Exactly. Played very, very well. Scored 80-odd, thereabouts, from memory?
Yeah, 80-odd, yeah. Yeah.
Really good game. So you'd think off the back of that, he should keep his spot. You reckon? Hopefully?
Yeah. I don't... Yeah. You can't.
Don't doubt it.
You get 100% kicking efficiency.
100%
efficiency. 100%. 21, I want to say, or 22 disposals at 100%.
Wow. Jesus. Well, he's definitely keeping his spot because I'm going to make a guess and say that's something that Essendon's lacking of late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
I
just
even know
a
that
barb.
Disposal efficiencies went that high.
Very good.
I thought it was like 20%. That's normally good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. The 20% is the new 100%. Haven't you heard? So with that trade, I didn't necessarily want to trade out Weir, particularly because he did still have cash to make. But yes, goes without saying, was obviously impressed with D'Ambrosio's performance first up and should keep his spot. So will be handy cover, at least in defence. Moving on to the good, 2 words. Piggy Oliver. Oink, oink. So to score 200 plus games against the Crows is stuff of legends, as I said. So to almost come close to doing it a third time is just pure insanity. So tip of the cap or tip of the beanie in my case, that I'm wearing at the moment, to you, the old pig. And in the bad, Jack Crisp takes the honours here after delivering a 79 off the back of an 80 last week. It could have, I guess, been much worse as he faced actually a score of 50-odd early in the fourth quarter, but salvaged himself with a late flurry of scoring to produce a score that flatters, I think, his overall performance. So you can't trick me, Crispy. So just pull your head in just a smidge and just regain that nice scoring. So hopefully just give you a little bit of a rocket there. But moving on to the ugly, and this guy is short and ugly because it is Jaden Short. Not short of stature, but short of form. Short of good form, and he finds himself in this category yet again. And just to keep these puns rolling, Liam, my patience is wearing short, and I am becoming very short-tempered with him. Whole shebang. So if I could afford to use a luxury trade, I can see you're not impressed. All right, I'll stop. But if I could afford to use a luxury trade, he would most definitely be on the block. Just not good enough. Not good enough. So over to you, Liam. Over to you. How'd you go? How'd you go this week?
Pretty well. Pretty happy.
Yep.
I scored this high score. I obviously came up on top, which was nice. Nice change for once. with the high score for the season for myself, with 2,615. So it was a close one, just the 5 points, and scaling didn't get me, thankfully.
For once?
Which we thought was a nervous wait after that Fremantle game. But it was nice to have a full team of, I guess, somewhat primos. I don't call all of my team primos. But it was nice to have just a full team, not having to have a number of them that just sit on the pine while they're injured, and just actually performing together, which was also nice, as you said. No RDOs this weekend
for once.
Thankfully, and I actually managed wins in all of my head-to-head matches this week, which was a nice little side to it as well. Onto the overall ranking quickly. I've come up into 15,146th overall. And just to go along with sort of your stats, since round 10, I've brought it in a smidge under 14K spots. And actually, I just had a quick look just while we were recording now. I've actually come up 9.5K spots since round 13.
Wow. Jesus.
So almost 10K in one, two, three, four rounds. So hopefully I can just continue that. Hopefully.
I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. You're the John Wick, and you know what he says.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
That is you at the moment.
Hopefully I can just
reclaiming that hot form.
If I can finish top, I don't know, where am I now? 15. If I can finish top 10K, which I think is pretty achievable, I'll be happy. If I can get in a bit more than that, and if anything more than that, I'll be very, very happy with. But let's see what happens. In terms of trades, I actually had same trades as you. Were to D'Ambrosio and Jeffrey to Baker. Ambrosio, as you said, I think could have been kept a bit longer. He had more cash to be made, but I think D'Ambrosio with his sort of bargain basement price just meant that I could free up some cash at the right time. And Jeffrey to Baker as well. Just want another pod in the forward line. Needed to just finish my forward line as well. There were some others that I was considering outside of Baker. Taranto, I did look at, but I don't want to say he's on my never again list, but he burnt me last year. So I kind of look at him with the little, I don't know.
Disdain,
yeah, it's a little bit of side eye whenever I see him.
Whereas with me, he saved the end of my season. He saved my bacon, where he was marooned in the forward line. And he ended up kicking 4 goals, 5 goals at one stage late in the year. I remember it well, as do you, Liam, for all the wrong reasons.
I do.
Maybe might get him in maybe at one stage. We'll see.
Hopefully. You should. I'm not touching him. So outside of those, outside of Baker, others that I was sort of considering were Jakey Stringer, sort of went around the same as Baker. So, but a bit cheaper, would have left me with more bank, but sort of an awkward amount of bank with the number of trades. I only have 2 trades left. So realistically, I wasn't, it just sort of would have left me in an awkward spot with the amount of cash I would have had there. Isaac Ranking was another option.
Yes.
The 3 other options, I'm going to be honest, were sort of high risk, high reward. And the other one was your burn man, Connor Rosie.
The wilted rose, the black rose, whatever you want to call him.
All of them, I think, would have been just high risk, high reward. They just play that sort of game where they could score well, but they're also potentially going to score like shit. So I think Baker was sort of the safe, or felt like the safest option out of those ones. Didn't have the best score on the weekend, score of 90, could have been better considering his recent form, but I'm pretty happy with it. Not too concerned. Hopefully he can repay more of that faith in coming weeks. Onto my good, hard to look past Clary Oliver, to be honest, but I'm going to go a different direction. You covered it. Jack Sinclair, he killed it with a score of 150, which is exactly what I needed in the back line this week. Just love it. But one of I really loved that trade in, I think. I think I did it the wrong week. I brought in Sinclair when I should have. I brought in Doherty the week I should have brought in Sinclair, but it was okay.
Yeah.
Sinclair came in a the long way, but he came in.
It's all that matters. It's all that matters. Got there in the end.
Exactly. It's fine.
It's the destination, not the journey. It was the journey. Journey be the destination. It was quite the journey to the destination.
We took the scenic route.
Yeah, we'll say that. Yeah, perfect.
In terms of the bad, I'm going to be a bit harsh. And there was probably some others that I probably could have had on this list in place of him, but I'm going to go with Lukey Parker.
Lukey Parker?
Going to go with a bit of a clip here. Yeah.
Wow, cracking the whip. The dictator. I'm going to start calling you the dictator.
He was on track for a big score.
He was.
But he pulled up in the last, actually going backwards in points. He was on 101 at 3/4 time and finished the game on 98. And that was a game that was on the line in that quarter. So there was plenty of points that he could have been made.
You know what? Give me that whip. I'm gonna take the whip out of your hands and I'm gonna start whipping him as well because I had no idea the extent of that. Wow.
Went backwards by 3 points.
What an idiot, mate. You're not on vacation. You're not Jordan De Goey. You're not going to fly off to Bali. Like, stay on field, mate, and do your role. Like, that's terrible. No, I agree with that. Sorry.
Going to pull that one out?
Yep.
He's lucky he wasn't in the ugly. It was going to be in the ugly. But,
that's a pod bad. I'm going to call that a pod bad. It's a left field bad. It's good.
Sorry, Parker. No, actually, not sorry. Do better. In the ugly, I, like you, can't go past short. Patience, as you said, is wearing very, very thin. And with the injury to Dusty, I don't know. Unfortunately, Short's time in the middle may look set to continue. But then also Vlosten's 1 week ban. Maybe he gets thrown back for the week and I can just enjoy 1 week of good scoring. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. It might give him a stay of leave for a week.
Maybe he'll go back and they'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that he was a decent backman.
Yeah, decent defender. And then when Vlosten comes back, they'll play him in the midfield. Who knows?
Yeah, great idea. Let's do that. Let's have a quick look at the head-to-head, Damon. You sit on 11 wins, 5 losses. I've got 5 wins and 11 losses. And the point differential sits at 657 in your favour.
Yes, and just before we move on, I just had a flashback to like this time last year where we started threatening players with the spectre of potentially trading them out when we didn't have enough trades to do so. So you know what, Short? You're on notice, mate. You're going to be out of my side. If I had more trades, you'd be out of my side.
You know what? Let's start the burn book. You're going in there. You're not coming in next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, spot on. You know what? Baker's going to take your role, mate. So yeah, how about that? He could be the next Short for next year. But just with regards to our head-to-heads, I did foresee this resurgence. Had a look into our SuperCoach Edge patented crystal ball, and I saw it was going to happen. So thankfully, we've updated the firmware and the crystal ball, and it is working. It's working a treat. And it's also working a treat because we did foresee something that occurred across the weekend. So let's delve into that by having a little closer look at what happened in the week that was. Yes, in the week that was, we keep you up to date on the key talking points of the round. And apart from, yes, that man, Piggy Oliver, the big, sweaty pink pig, oinking his way to a 170.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
It was a round cursed with soft tissue injuries. And in an ominous sign of things to come, all of Zorko, Rich and Trelaw went down through soft tissue injuries in the opening game of the round. And we posed a question on Twitter of whether this was an indication of other injury-prone players potentially also seeing the wrath of the SuperCoach injury, what we're going to call SuperCoach injury Grim Reaper throughout the round. And it was almost as if, I don't know, those of you out there listening, watching, if you've seen Michael J. Fox's The Frighteners, classic movie. And it's a movie, mind you, that's aimed at kids, but it is bloody scary. Like he can see ghosts and stuff, and it's like a comedy / like serious sort of semi-horror. But there's like a Grim Reaper that goes around and like scrawling like numbers into the foreheads of people, and you can see like who's next on the Grim Reaper's list. And the Grim Reaper is like super scary. I remember watching it when I was younger and it scared the shit out of me. But it's reminiscent of that. I was thinking, who's going to be next that's going to be claimed by this Reaper? And I know that's pretty, you could call it grim. But the writing was on the wall looking back at it now. So coming off the back of breaking the meters gained record last week for Hall, all of the signs were there. So like he just put extra meters into his legs. Didn't need to do it. You're playing for North, mate. Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, awesome. You're breaking a record, but just worked his muscles, his little hammy and quads over time. But of course, that wasn't little solace to the fellow owners as he too went down with a quad injury. So with the likes of Stewart, Rich, Zorko, Hall, and Houston, who went off, he was subbed on the weekend as well, all going down through injury, coupled with now, we've heard as we've before we recorded this podcast, coupled with the 1 week suspension just handed to Nick Vlaston, has the injury/suspension crisis that had hit the Rucks previously now shifted to defence. It almost feels like the hand on the clock, on the injury suspension clock, has now shifted to defence. So signs are there potentially, but let's hope not, as the majority of us can count, I guess, the number of trades that we have left on one hand. So we don't need these trades. We definitely need the trades, but we don't need these injuries, don't need these suspensions. So hopefully just leave us alone. The Grim Reaper, just have a day off, mate. Have a day off.
Just take a couple of weeks off. How many weeks are left?
Have 6 weeks off.
6 weeks? Yeah. All right. Have 6 weeks off. Please. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Got some more crisis as well, just to add to it. And that is the issue of some underperforming primos, and underperforming is probably putting it lightly. We've got Jaden Short and both Jaden Short and Patrick Cripps, who are the prime suspects here, giving all of us as owners the dilemma of whether they are worthy of a trade out of our sides.
Yep.
And on that, let's jump into the next segment, which is The Price is Right.
The price is wrong, bitch.
In The Price is Right, we run through a quick summary of the top buy, sell, hold, and wait options for this round of SuperCoach. We'll chat about the pros, the cons, and who you should be considering trading in or out of your side this week. Now, just going to preface this, I am hopefully not going to be making any trades this week. I've got 2 left. I am it's going to be straight out with it.
Are you tempted just to burn them?
When the SuperCoach opened, I was like, all right, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Got 2 trades. There's stuff I could do this week, surely. Yeah.
It's almost boring now because it's like, I just have to sit on my hands and do nothing for the next
it's almost
6 weeks
worse,
or whatever.
I feel like, than when you just don't have any trades left. Because you're like, at that stage, you're like, oh, well, I can't do anything. But right now I'm like, I've got trades. I could do something. I'm just choosing not to.
You know what it reminds me of? That's what is it? It's like the experiment in psychology where they get like a group of kids in like a classroom, for example, and like they put like a bag of lollies in front of them or like cupcakes, and they're and the parent, the teacher, whatever, says, all right, don't touch this. And when I come back in 10 minutes time, if you haven't eaten this, I will give all of you double the amount of chocolates, lollies, whatever. They go away. And then they come back and like one of the kids is like egged on another one, like go on, eat it. And like peer pressure like mounts and one of them eats it. This is almost what I feel like with the 2 trades remaining, it's like they're there in front of me and it's like, I want to use them. I so want to use them, but I know if I use them, it's just, I'm done. I know like injuries are going to strike and they're going to kill me. So yeah, we're like the little kids with the cupcake in front of us. And I'm that kid that's nudging you, Liam. Go on, use it. Use your trades. Do it.
Who do you reckon's going to crack first? Injury aside, I mean, if you get an injury, obviously that's fair. Let's see who cracks first.
This would be a good experiment, actually. Let's check in every week to see, and like we'll just keep a straight face up until a point, and then we'll have to chat about it when we talk about our respective teams and how we went in the good, the bad, the ugly. But I'm kind of setting a benchmark, I think, at this stage. I don't know about you, but I haven't thought about it too much. But I think I mentioned last week where if it gets to like par, where you've got like as many trades as what you do weeks left, like the old Lee Matthews rule to an extent, it's like the same goals as like the number of minutes left in a game. Like you can still win. So that's sort of the Lee Matthews trading theory that I've got.
I like that.
Yeah,
I do. I think that's a good one. The other one I just like to consider is just, if you get to finals, there's no point not trading and losing a final that you need to win.
That's true.
Because like, who cares if you've saved? Anyway, that's sort of the other thing that I sort of like to consider. But that's just dependent on your own situation. I'll probably be trying to hold as long as I can, as long as injuries hold off, hopefully.
Yeah. No,
but anyway, let's jump in. Let's jump into some injury news in the Sal's. And that is Aaron Hall, defender eligible, 495.3K, averaging 94.4 with a break even of 115. And after copying 2 hamstring injuries this season, poor bloke, he ended up injuring his quad in his second game back. We have yet to hear the full outlook for his injury, but given this is the third major soft tissue injury he has sustained this season off the back of an already shaky injury history, you'd think the wise move is to move him on. The wise move is to, not play him, give him a decent rest. I mean, North's not going anywhere this year. And it's most likely best then just to move him on. I'd probably be moving him on. Rough for those that traded him back in this week.
Oh, yeah. One thing I've learned across the journey, and it's taken a long while for me to learn this, but like there's taking risks, but then there's also like just taking calculated risks. And he it depends where you are as well. Like if you were sort of near the top and you need to take a pod option, you could warrant it. But if you're running short of trades and you bring in someone of that caliber who could break down, just kind of like a just learn as you go type thing. Because I've done it before in the past, and just one of the things you just taking your stride and be like, all right, no worries, we'll see what happens next time. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But moving on to 2 guys here that we've also added into the sell category, and we have touched on this man, both of our uglies. The ugly man himself, Jaden Short. Apologies, mate, but in a SuperCoach sense, you are ugly. He's as a defender, midfielder, he's priced at 481.4K. He's dropped to, and his average and break even is dipping as well. So not too good at this stage. So it's looking more and more likely with every passing week that Short is an ideal sideways trade if you have enough trades to do it. That is. So his average has fallen to that 101 after hovering around 112 at one point, and his 3-game average is 83.3, and his 5-game average is 87.4, which gives probably more of a close indication of how far he's fallen in SuperCoach form in recent weeks. So just from the heights of where he was, averaging 112 at one point, he is just a shell of that SuperCoach Primo that we know and love, and SuperCoach Seagull as well, unfortunately. But since round 11, this is just give further context as well, just to drive it home. Since round 11, he's only scored above 100 once, with other scores being 85, 84, 84, and 82. So consistent, but consistently bad, you'd say, as a primo. So in comparison to his early season form across the first 8 rounds, he only scored below 100 once. So just chalk and cheese for good old Jaden Short there. And the downward trajectory in price and scoring has come off the back of being shifted into the engine room for the Tigers, where his disposal efficiency has suffered greatly, as well as the number of disposals that he is getting overall. But most alarmingly, Hardwick has come out, or he did come out during the week, and said they're going to continue persisting with Short in the middle. Like, mate, come on. Like, do you think maybe it'd be different if Richmond were losing games? And they'd be like, oh, we're going to throw him back. Like, is it working against him, the fact that Richmond are still winning games?
Surely. I mean, I haven't seen enough Richmond games in recent weeks. Is he playing well in the mid? I mean, I know that there's SuperCoach scoring and there's playing well. Is he going okay or not? Because if his disposals are going down, I mean, obviously he's getting a bit of a seagull off the back line, so he's probably getting disposals out of kick-ins. So he's getting those easy disposals. But his disposal efficiency going down, I mean, that makes sense because obviously his he's playing in the middle, he's more likely to, being hack kick forwards.
There's a lot of that stuff. Like from what I've seen, like I saw a little bit on the weekend and he was just shanking kicks, turning it over, like completely different to, like, as you say, in defense, pinpoint passing, you got more time and space, especially when they're, switching, transition, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think he's used to playing in the midfield. Like maybe he'll get better over time. Like maybe he'll find a bit more patience, composure, but to go from a complete outside defender with no one really playing on him to then being like in a contested situation as he has been, like he's just forced to like rush his kicks and maybe he just doesn't have that mindset about him as a player because it's like, it's chalk and cheese, like two different roles. So I don't know. It's interesting, but hopefully he can improve. But I mean, the past 5 weeks, discounting that 102 that he scored against Port, he's gone downhill completely. He's just a shell of himself, unfortunately. But, yeah.
Yes.
One to consider, I think, as a bit of a luxury trade.
Yeah, I think it's a luxury trade, unfortunately. I think if you've got more than 4 trades, maybe it's worth it. But even then, it's hard to say without looking at a team and giving you specific advice. Moving on to our next option, another player in that similar vein, I guess, in the scoring, just sort of the form line in absolute sort of
downward
turned
spiral.
upside down. Yeah.
Yep.
The helicopter, Paddy Cripps is just.
It's like Black Hawk down, like the back road is like being shot out and he's going around in circles. Boop, boop. I should be that guy from Police Academy that does the sound effects. Boop, boop. We got a Black Hawk down. We got a Black Hawk Cripper down.
Paddy Cripps, midfield eligible, obviously, 520K, averaging 110.9 with a break even of 108. And you hear that and you're like, why is he on the trade outs list? And it isn't probably as dire a need with Cripps. There are worrying signs for the Carlton captain, and they come in the form of his recent form line and his Supercoach scores. Despite his average looking rosy at that 110.9, the full tale is told with his 5-game average being 102.4 and his 3-game average being just 90.7. Now, we look into it a bit deeper, as we like to do. That. We get to compare his first half of games, he played to that of the second half, highlight a bit more of a worrying trend. In his first 7 games of the season, he scored 119 plus in all but one of his first 7 games, with the one being an injury-affected game, only to then score over 100 in just 2 of his next 7 games. The only upside in the short term is that Carlton play the West Coast Eagles this weekend, but with a number of players returning to their senior lineup, West Coast aren't the easy beats they once were. If you are keen on punting him, Jack Steele presents as the juiciest option, which is a good segue to the buy category. But before that, Damon, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I must say, like, his form, I think he's still getting contested possessions. He's still getting clearances, like bulk, all the stuff that we love him for. But as a supporter, and I was there watching live against St Kilda on, was it Friday night? And I must say he's not the same Cripper that we saw earlier in the season. Like, I love Cripper, but he tries to do too much. He gets caught with the ball, which then prompts him to just rush a kick, like bomb it into the air. So his disposal efficiency isn't the best because of that, and just doesn't take first option, just lets guys hang off him. And he's got obviously that strength about him to then like keep moving with like 10 guys hanging off him, but he doesn't then dispose of it in a correct way, which lowers his disposal efficiency, and with it, the Supercoach ceiling that he once had. So I don't know. It's definitely not like he's fit, so it's not an injury side of things, which makes me think. And then position wise as well, still playing the same style of game, but I think he should come good. There really isn't anyone, like, he got Chera back into the midfield as well. So it's not as if there's anyone missing in the engine room that he's sort of in need of support from.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can see him turning it around, but he's just in a little bit of a form slump, I think, at the moment, on a SuperCoach sense anyway. But I think also, must say, St Kilda absolutely pummeled Carlton's midfield. Walsh as well. As you know how much I love Walshy. It goes without saying, but him and others as well, they struggled. So I think just when the team overall is struggling, Cripps struggles with it as well. So I don't think he's one to really stand up in games like that. So who knows, like, might come good against West Coast. Carlton do have a bit of a up and down sort of draw to end the season. Got to face Melbourne and a few other sort of teams, Collingwood I think as well, who obviously are in good form at the moment. But yeah, I could talk about this for hours, but I think there's enough there for me to think that he will come good. But like you mentioned, Jack Steele, good value. And again, if I had more trades up my sleeve, I would probably consider it, which probably goes against what I was just saying. But you've got to weigh it up, I think, in that sense. But let's delve into it by looking into the buy category with Jack Steele. And obviously a midfielder priced at $543K, averaging 109.8 with a break even of 92. And after returning from his shoulder injury in the past 2 weeks, Steele has picked up where he left off, scoring 115 and 107, with his tackling prowess underpinning that high floor with 10 and 9 tackles in both of those games. And having dropped 142.8K cheaper than his starting price and with a break even of just 92, he has bottomed out and will be on the way back up to his high 600K price tag in no time. So he's only 23K more expensive than Cripps if you did want to pull that trigger on that trade, or even trading the likes of Short or Hall. In their case, you would need to find around 60K or a touch under 50K for both of those guys respectively. So I think there's enough merit there. You know, we both love Jack Steele because of the fact that he does have that high floor, and he's back to his tackling best. I mean, that's one surefire way to test out the healthiness of your shoulder that you've just done by laying that many tackles. So he's back to full fitness. And if you don't have Jack Steele, or if you are someone that you are in need of, you know, an M8, bring him in because he is, you know, as we always go on about, the average is reflective of the guys that will finish in the top 8 spots in the midfield. And I think comfortably he will finish in the top 8 spots. So he is someone that I would love to have in my team. But I don't know, what are your thoughts just quickly then?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. It's an interesting one in terms of how you get him in.
Yep.
With most people, it's probably not going to be able to find a way in unless you do have a luxury trade like a Cripps. The only thing with a Cripps trade is, like, it's not like Hall's obviously injured, and if you can swing some players around, that makes sense. But if you've got Cripps to Steele, you've got to bank on the fact that he's going to, like, if he only scores sort of 10 points extra than him for the rest of the season, there's 6 rounds left?
Yeah.
That's only 60 points. Is that worth a trade?
No.
If he scores, 20, then it's obviously 120. It really comes down to that, I guess. So I don't know if he's the best luxury trade.
Yep.
Necessarily from a Cripps, but obviously for a Hall, it makes sense if you can swing some players around, or even Short. I think there's benefit there. Short's got upside.
Yep.
But on his recent scoring, it's not like his recent scoring has been up and down. And that's where the average is sort of at that 80 from his last, 3 games. It's 85, 84, 84, and 82, other than that 100 since round 11. So I think there's benefit there, is what I'm just trying to say, in essence.
That's true. Good way to weigh it up, though. That's true.
Yeah, and I think that's how I'd want to look at it. If it's a luxury trade, if you're upgrading, then yeah, Jack Steele's a great option from just a rookie. But yeah, I don't think there'd be many people in that situation. Yep. Moving on to the next option, it is Jordan Dawson, who had a very good game on the weekend with his defender, midfielder eligible, 626.9K, averaging 112.8 with a break even of 85. And he has been in a hot run of form in recent times with a 3-round average of 139.3 and a 5-round average of 125.6. Such has been his ultra consistency. He actually hasn't scored below 100 since round 8. Yeah.
Scintillating.
Yeah. Largely has shared the kicking duties with Brodie Smith this season. But it's his flexibility as a player to be used on the wing at stages and the fact he hasn't attracted a tag all year that also appeals. He is the top tier primo replacement option for Hall if you can afford the extra 130K. And he comes with the added bonus of being a DPP player, which is obviously very important at this stage of the season with having that, flexibility to swing him for coverage into the later stage of the season. Yeah, I mean, it's not often you kind of say, traded a defender at 626.9K, but sometimes you just got to pay for what you're going to get.
Quality,
and you're getting, you're getting a 3-round average of 130. I mean, obviously those are points in the bank. You can't bank on those going into the future. But he is in very good form and he's going to keep going up in price. If you are sort of in need of I don't know how you'd find that 130K at this stage of the season, but if you can, good luck to you.
Yep. No, exactly right. No, he's one that's a bit of a sliding doors moment for me because I ended up trading. It was Whitfield it was between Sinclair and Dawson. And at that stage, they were very similar in price. I think Dawson, from memory, was actually priced cheaper than Sinclair, believe it or not. And I ended up going for Sinclair because at that stage, Dawson hadn't really shown much of a scoring ceiling. And he's bloody kicked dirt in my face ever since then. He's obviously turned that around. But, yeah, I think you can't go too wrong with Dawson. As you said, pay for the quality you get and well worth every B. As I say, every penny. Give me 3 Bs to a penny, they used to say. Otherwise, we haven't mentioned him here, but just as an aside, Sinclair is another one as well, obviously, but just quickly comes with that that tag risk. And I'm surprised that my mob in Carlton didn't tag Sinclair on the weekend, which is a bit interesting. But that's probably one thing to look at with Sinclair because he does present as a bit of an option, potentially as an upgrade or sort of trade-in potential replacement for Hall. Yeah,
well, I mean, looking at him, he scored that 79 against Sydney when he was tagged, and that was his first sub-100 score since round 9. And then he had 2 sub-100 scores in a row of 83 and 85, and then he hadn't scored below 100 before that. So he's only had 3 scores below 100, so also another very good option.
Consistent.
Just owned by probably, I haven't looked at Dawson's ownership. But
Dawson, you mean?
Yeah, Dawson.
Dawson
Sinclair's at 30, just under 34%.
Dawson's
so
is 19%.
Yeah, so Dawson's probably a bit more relevant to people. In terms of being traded in, I think a lot more people would have Sinclair at almost 40%.
Yep. No, that makes sense. But there is also
34%.
34%. Yep.
34.
Oh, that's even better, making more of a pod. But speaking of pods, there is one, and he goes by the name of Bailey Dale, and he is obviously just a defender, priced at 545.2K, averaging 106.7 with a break-even of 71, and he's one guy who went largely under the radar last week as a replacement option for Stewart. And the stars aligned for Dale and his prospective new owners because his counterpart in Caleb Daniel was ruled out for a few weeks with, I think it was a knee injury. He went in for a bit of arthroscopic surgery there, a bit of a cleanup. And as a result, on the weekend, he was granted a bulk of the kick-ins to the tune of 66% and played on in all of them. And that's what you want.
Oh.
That's 2 thumbs up.
Yeah,
if you're not watching us on YouTube, this is 2 thumbs up. Liam's giving 2 thumbs up underneath the camera there. Up there. See? That's it. And I'm pointing up my big toes as well
so
because they
look
4?
Like thumbs. That's 4 thumbs up.
That's 4 thumbs up. Exactly. It was that good. But yeah, he's produced off the back of that his highest score of the year with 134 as the main distributor out of defence for the Dogs. But must be said, the one query, we've said it for a long while about Dale, even last year I think it was the same query, that does remain on him, and it is with regards to his limited ceiling, having only scored above 115 in 3 of his past 12 matches. But without Dale, Could we see a stark improvement here like we did on the weekend? But must be said, of those 12 matches, he scored over a ton in 9, underlining his relatively high floor and super solid consistency. And SuperCoach Gold shows if he can produce the sort of scores like he did on the weekend across the next 2 weeks, his price could rise by as much as 50K. So if you want to jump on him, now's probably the time to do so. So, doing quite well is Dale, and could be headed to the moon potentially.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, because I know Daniel didn't miss, he might have only missed a game or two last year off memory. But it would be interesting to see, I know he was playing sort of just all over the ground at stages, so it would be interesting to see Dale's scores in those games where Daniel wasn't in the in the back line, to sort of have a bit of an analysis of whether there's any correlation between this 134 and those other scores. I mean, that would be really, really good to consider. I personally am not a fan of not a fan of Dale. I think he's super consistent, but he's just not going to get you those big scores that you might see from like a Dawson. I mean, he's obviously Dawson's going to cost you a hell of a lot more. But even like for an extra 30 odd K, Sinclair's got a higher ceiling and pretty similar consistency in terms of his hundreds as well. That's the only sort of query I have there. But he's not a bad option in the slightest. Now, moving on to the last option on our buy list, and it's a pod. It's a very decent pod at just ownership of just 0.7%. And I've gone pod crazy, I have to admit. If I had a defender spot, this guy would be coming in. It's Mason Redmond, defender eligible, 547.4K, averaging 92.4 with a break even of 108. And he has hit a bit of a purple patch of form in recent weeks, scoring a ton in 4 of his last 5 matches, with a 3-round average of 117.7 and a 5-round average of 113. As I mentioned, he is super pod in the sense that he is only in 0.7%. So he would be the ultimate cod. But yes, look, I mean, I did say I'd bring him in, and I'm just sort of, I think at my stage of the season, where I'm ranked, it's okay to do it. But it is a big risk. And I think Damon, you'd probably sit alongside here, looking at him, his price 2K more ish than Bailey Dale. So you'd probably be thinking that Dale has more upside, I guess.
Yeah. But I can see it.
I guess I really like the idea of the pods now, just for my start point of the season. Just cause a bit of chaos, play it a little bit more fun. But I think Dale has the better consistency, so I can see the benefit of that, especially with Daniel out for the foreseeable future.
Yep. And like Dale is still a pod in his own right as well. Probably not to the extent of Redmond, but he is only in 5% of teams, Dale. So if you're still after a pod, he still sort of fits that bill. But yeah, you're totally right. It was surprising to me because I didn't really consider him. I didn't even know that Redmond was actually doing as well as he has. Like, is it more a case of he's playing a role that Ridley has in the past, or is it just he's in good form?
Just in good form as well, I think. A bit of a mix of both, which is nice to see.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you're right. I just like throwing in a little bit of a pod now. Going to be next year. Wait from my side next year. It's all going to be 1% ownership.
Please don't. I don't want to hear you complaining every week.
1% ownership, because I'll be at number 1 as well.
1 for 1.
No. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to on the bubble, Damon. And we've got two players here.
Yes, 2 players, both named James. Are they the same person? They could be. Who knows? Don't even know who they are. James Tunstall, I guess you pronounce it, for Brisbane, is one option. Midfielder priced at 117.3K, averaging a 55.5 with a break-even of -43. And he scored 38 and 73 in his first 2 games. And I saw a little bit of him on the weekend against the Dogs and actually looked pretty good. scored well, obviously, but played well as well. Looked good. But question probably remains as to, Brisbane, we know they're probably aiming towards a top 4 team at this stage. And I don't recall whose spot he's taken, but no doubt as a sort of young player, he was sort of drafted in the 40s, 2021 draft. I can't say that his job security is all that secure. So just sort of not sort of someone that you'd want to jump on as a bench cover option with the hope that he's going to stay there all season. Same can probably be said for the other guy, James Blank. He is a mid-season rookie draftee. He's a defender, bottom price, 102.4K, averaging a 42.5 with a break-even of -26. And he scored 43 and 42 in his first 2 games. More of a key position player, so probably the reason why his scores are only hovering around at that 40 mark. At this stage of the year, it probably goes without saying, you'd want to be going for guys that are going to fill your bench spots as cover in case injury strike, suspension strike, as we've seen across the journey over the past month. It's starting to happen now. So I can't say with full confidence that these 2 guys are the 2 guys to jump on. If you need to make a bit of bank, you could potentially at a stretch, but I'd even opt for, even though he's gone up in price, Massimo D'Ambrosio, priced at 159.6K, because he's more secure. And yeah, his break even is a -44 at the moment. So
yeah, so better than both of these guys still.
Yep, exactly.
In terms of break even, yeah.
Yep. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add there, Liam, but pretty much speaks for itself.
Not really. I think, at this stage, unless you're really looking for a player that's playing, with the number of trades you got left, you're probably not looking for someone that's actually going to make cash. I think you're better off downgrading to a non-playing player, unless you're really desperate for a player to actually be playing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sort of my view. I'd be trading in, or even trading in players that might play, like a Cully or a Carmichael from Collingwood that are that bottom price, 102K. I think they're both DPP as well. So like that's another option if you really it gives you a potential cover, but it also just gives you the most bank you can possibly get, being rookies, that bottom price rookie as well.
I like it.
But yeah, now Damon, let's move on.
Yeah, one thing I also like is when you read out the name of this next segment. Give your best.
I'm the captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Oh my God, I got shivers. I've got shivers.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that one. I wasn't sure about that one, actually. I wasn't sure.
That was good.
To be honest.
That was really good.
But
that was menacing, very menacing.
I feel like it had to be menacing because there's only 2 options for your captaincy this week, I'm going to be honest.
Oh, that's true.
We'll go through all of them, but there's only 2 that you should really seriously be considering. Much
like last week, you could say, even though it was probably only one in the big pink sweaty pig himself. But
yep. There's 2, I'm going to say. There's 2.
Okay, there's 2.
With VC, that you're going to have to score big to remain the VC, if you ask me. But yes, this is I'm the captain now, and in I'm the captain now, we scrounge through the data and we find the best options for your VC and C for this weekend. Now, first up is one of those 2 aforementioned that are going to be your sort of main focuses for this week, and it is Clary Oliver against Geelong Thursday at 7:20. And he did not let us down last week with his score of, 176 or something. Loved it.
Yeah.
But let's delve here. He's got an average of 135.25 over his last 4 against the Cats, with scores of 130, 159, 111, and 141. Now he also has his third best average against any team, which is against the Cats, with a 127.6 from 7 games. And he has his highest average at any venue at GMHBA Stadium, which he was playing at the weekend, with 142.3 from 3 games.
Let me just wipe the drool from my mouth there. That is amazing. That there is like some crispy pork action right there. Just imagining Clary Oliver on a rotisserie, just with an apple in his mouth. just going to leave that with you, that mental image. Because that is crispy pork action right there. That is amazing. That's so good. Like the stars are aligning. The stars aligned on the weekend, and we saw it coming. The history was there. The data was there. Everything was there, and it's there again, smacking us right in the face.
The only concern I have is whether, I know. It's okay because he's your VC. Like he's the perfect VC option. He plays on the Thursday night. It's a simple option. But the concern I have is, does Geelong give him a little bit of attention with, potentially even a Guthrie going to him? I don't know. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. Well, at least he's obviously going to be a VC. So not too bad. Minimises the risk in case he does get tagged. And even then, I think he's shown that even in games where he's been tagged, he's still able to punch out, relatively high enough scores to be considered captaincy or VC lockaway scores. So it's not too bad, I think. Not too bad an option. So yes, obviously goes without saying one to consider, but another guy to consider, and it is in the next game on Friday night, and it is Jack McRae faces Sydney at 7:50 p.m. on Friday, and he's averaged 108 over his last four against the Swans with scores of 92, 116, 92, and 132, and he's only had a score of 125 plus once since round 8. He's had a 123 in round 15 though. So he may be one to steer clear of, considering, I guess, better options around him. But he's one to throw out there because he did reclaim a bit of form over the past few weeks. So it's showing that he hasn't lost his touch just yet. But yes, there are other options that are more juicy, more bacon flavored options as well, I think you could say.
Yes, I'll pay that one. In the same game, obviously, we've got Marcus Bontempelli as well. Averaged 136.5 over his last four against the Swannies with scores of 108, 114, 166, and 158. Bit of probably a pod option in terms of a C, captaincy, in the sense that I don't think many people would go for him. And his recent form line against the Swans probably hasn't been good enough to, the last two games haven't been captaincy worthy. The two before that were. So a bit of a risk, but not too bad for your VC if you are going to avoid Clary Oliver on the Thursday night. Yep.
Not too bad. Not too bad at the Bont. Another option is the running man, Took Miller, and he faces Richmond on Saturday at 4:35 p.m. And he's averaged 105.75 in his last four games against the Tigers with scores of 53, 124, 79, and 49. And the side that he averages worst against, unfortunately, is the Tigers. So probably something to factor in, but nonetheless, recent form is something to factor in. And he produced on the weekend, produced very well, scored 153. And it was after I think he had a bit of a knock at one stage, went off the ground, and I thought maybe his day is done. His night is done. And thankfully he came back on, because at that stage I think he was around about 70 odd. Came back on and doubled his score, so more than double his score. So one to consider with that in mind.
Another option for you on Saturday night at 7:25 against Fremantle is Jack Sinclair. He's only got an average of 78 in his last four against the Dockers with scores of 114, 101, 51 and 46. But he hit back after a poor showing against the Swans with a big score of 150 against your mob in the Blues. And he's been pretty consistent. So just another option that, could bob up for a big score. He has had a few 125 pluses across the journey this year. So just a bit of a risky option there.
Recent form is good form. So, yes, factors in there. And another guy who is in really good form is Stephen Canilio. And he faces Port on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. and he's averaged 118 in his last four games against the Power with scores of 97, 143, 126 and 106. So a bit of an out there option, but one that could pay dividends if you are looking to go a pod.
A risky one now, especially that Tim Mitchell on our Twitter has absolutely put the moz on him because the fantasy gods have seen that he said does Cogs go under 100. So thank you for that, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Out of spite, like, come on, celebrate the highs and the lows. Like, I know he was a previous owner of Cogs, and that's why he's sort of plotting his demise. But you know what the best cure is? Jumping on the bandwagon, jumping back on the bandwagon in his case.
Yeah, get him in.
And just join the party. The door's been swung open. Just come on in. There's balloons, there's streamers, there's music, there's everything. There's stuff going on here you want to join in on. So jump on in.
Now, onto the main course, I want to say. If Clary Oliver is the pig in a blanket that you have as your entree.
I'll pay that. That is joke of the episode for sure. That's just obviously it's not hard to bloody blast away my stupid puns, but that was that pig in a blanket. Very good. What would you call it? An appetizer?
Yeah, I guess an appetizer.
Not an entree, appetizer. Yep.
He's the appetizer. I don't know what Lockie Neal is. He's the main course. Whatever he is the main course. Coming up against my mob in the Dons on Sunday at 1:10 at the Gabba. He has averaged 163 in his last 4 against the Dons with scores of 198, 157, 157 and 140. And it comes as no surprise that he has his best average against the Dons of any other side with an average of 126.8 from his 11 outings against them. He is the prime candidate for your C like Oliver was last week.
I like it.
Main course. Lockie, main course, Neil.
Absolutely. And just for those of you out there who have no idea what a pig in a blanket is, it is a sausage wrapped in pastry. So it looks like it's literally what it is. It's a pig, a sausage, pork wrapped in pastry. Or alternatively, I think there's another one. There's another alternative to that, and it's something wrapped in bacon.
Oh, I think you can do sausage as well. Yeah.
Sausages wrapped in bacon.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah. So there you go. Double the bacon, double the piggy.
Double the pork.
Yep, I like it. But that main meal sounds like I can't eat any more. Like just gorging yourself like a pig at a trough, like what Clary was on the weekend. But let's move to another solo option outside of that, if you're game enough to go outside of Neil, and it is Rory Laird faces the Hawks on Sunday at 3:20 p.m. and he's averaged 123.25 in his last 4 against the Hawks with scores of 111, 178, 102 and 102. And he comes into this game with a 3-round average of 133.3 and a 5-round average of 130.8. So again, someone that has awesome form behind him, just racks up the pill at will. Do you like that? Poet didn't know it. So keep him in mind, I think.
Now another very solid option in that same game, it's Jordan Dawson, and he has an average of just 71.75 in his last 4 against the Hawks with scores of 73, 78, 104 and 32. But his last 3 scores since the bye have been 140, 134 and 144. And if he continues that on, he should give you a very, very solid captaincy score. So one that you should consider as well. Probably a bit more of I'd say it'd still be a bit of a pod in terms of captaincy choices. I think most people will be going for Clary into Neil. Sorry.
It reminded me there, you a bit of a disco stew there. If these trends continue, strikes again. Didn't even know it. You made a reference there. Very good. Very good. But again, it's like a captaincy on the last game of the round. I think
second last game.
Second last game. But this next guy coming up, who is my boy, Sammy Walsh, is in the last game because we spoke about it last week, but no one tweeted us. So I don't think anyone does it where you put the captaincy on a player who's playing in the last game, the very last game of the round. And I spoke last week of Sean Darcy, and he would have been all right. Thereabouts. He's got 124, Sean Darcy. So this might pay dividends, especially because it is my boy, Sammy Walsh. Faces the Eagles last game on Sunday at 4:40 p.m. And he's averaged 117 in his last 3 games against the Eagles with scores of 124, 114 and 113. So he scored 115 on the weekend. Wasn't his best game by his standards. So, as we said, the Eagles are a different outfit. So you'd be pretty game, I think, to take that risk. But why would you when you've got the likes of Pig in a Blanket and the main course? Lucky Neil.
Exactly. I think it's pretty obvious which way we're going. But Damon,
Yep.
I better ask you anyway. Who are your selections this week?
Yep. We've said it. We both said it. Pig in a Blanket, Piggy Oliver. Third week straight is probably the wisest move, albeit first up as the VC this time. And after him, Neil looks like that tasty, delicious main course that you just want to gobble up. All you can eat. Maybe Pizza Hut style, all you can eat, just harping back to that reference last week. For those of you who are tuning in, you have no idea what we're talking about. Have a listen to last week's episode where we made a reference about all you can eat Pizza Huts. And I think one of our Discord participants, people in our community, in our Discord community, actually pointed out that there are all you can eat Pizza Hut restaurants in Tassie, in Hobart, I think. So how about that? Maybe we should make a bit of a trip down there.
We'll take the podcast on the road.
Yeah, and in fact, we'll record it from a Pizza Hut. Imagine that. It'd be like become a bit of a mukbang. Like people hear us just going,
yeah,
chowing down on Pizza Hut, and then moose desserts. And anyway, yeah, going off the tangent here. So, but what about you, Liam? Anything different?
Yeah,
or the same.
Nah. You nailed it with Oliver into Neil. Too much upside.
Yeah.
I'm even going to say Oliver's going to have to go pretty big with his VC score for me not to take the punt on Neil. My pass mark normally is the 125. If you make 125, I'll take your VC score. I might even up that to around 135, 140.
Smart.
To just, I'm comfortable doing that for the main course in Lockie Neil.
Yeah, let's just get the napkin and the bibs out and just put it on. Yeah, the big lobster bibs.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, you got to crack the shells open and stuff. Like it gets pretty messy. This is going to be a nice feast. So I'm very much the same. And McRae as well, as we saw on the weekend. A lot of people did you put the VC on McRae on the weekend?
Yeah.
And with that, I was not going to lock it in unless he passed 150, which he didn't even come close to, because the spectre of Oliver potentially scoring as well as what he had against the Crows in the past two was hanging over me, and I would have kicked myself had I not done that. And thankfully, McRae didn't eclipse that, so I was able to gorge myself on Piggy Oliver's crispy pork skin. So this is sounding very cannibalistic, but yeah, the same thing applies with Oliver and Neil. But now it's time, Liam, for that time where people send in questions and they ask that question, which is, are guts to
know?
Hey, I got to know.
That was good. Different spin on that one. People
Drag
weren't
that one out a
expecting
little
that. Yeah.
No.
Yep.
They did not know that was going to happen.
But now they got to know based upon the questions they've sent in.
They got stuff.
Yep.
I'm going to give this first one to you, Damon. I'm going to
okay.
handball this one straight across. It's from Maddie Tex on Twitter at TexMaddie. With only 535.5K to upgrade SDK to my last defender, what are your thoughts on Houston, Brayshaw and Vlosten?
Yes, well, as fate would have it, that list has been narrowed down for you because Houston was subbed out of the game by Port on the weekend after jarring his knee. And Brett Montgomery, the assistant for Port, came out and said that he's, jarred his knee, but early signs are positive. We've just got to get off a 3-hour flight, which is at the time when he was being interviewed. He'll have scans during the week. So we'll wait and see as to what sort of the outlook is there for him. Then you've also got to factor in Vlosten. So he has copped a week suspension. So again, count him out. So that leaves you with Brayshaw of the remaining last man standing of that list you've just presented. So, the SuperCoach gods trying to tell you something. So, yes, he is one, I guess, Brayshaw. I haven't really factored him in. When you mentioned him, I had a quick look at his history, and his current form or recent form hasn't been too bad. But outside of him, there are guys that I would factor in. And the first one is Lachie Whitfield, and he is probably the most attractive of the lot, recapturing his form and coming in at a value price of just 477.5K, having scored 118, 101, 103 and 96 since that man vacated that senior coaching spot in Leon Cameron. So he is one to look at first and foremost. Outside of him is someone you're familiar with, Liam, in Blitzars, who is a nice pot option. And you can talk to, I guess, that, having just brought him in, which I'll let you do in a moment. And outside of him is Liam Baker, who we both brought in, obviously, on the weekend. As a nice little pod. He's been in a nice hot run of form of late, scoring 4 tons and an 80 and 90 in his past 6 matches in total. So apart from playing in the midfield, which he has done for the past 2 weeks now, he has been playing off half back in Jaden Short's old role. So when Prestia comes back, which I think he will be doing, they've said this weekend, if he passes all fitness tests, he may be swung back into defence. So especially with Vlosten not being there, he may be swung into defence to fill his shoes. Then outside of Baker, we have a value option. So if you want to save a little bit of dosh, you can do so with Stephen May. He is the juicy value option, I'm going to call him, priced at just 379K. And he has fallen in price due to that concussion-affected game that he had a few rounds ago. So I guess of those 4 guys that I've mentioned, I would go for, in order of Whitfield, Baker / Blitzars, very, very close to call there.
Yeah.
Both DPP players as well, which is also good. And then May, probably last but not least. And Brayshaw's a good one as well, but I don't know, something about Brayshaw where he's just his early season form, something about it. I haven't read too much into his positioning, how he fits into Melbourne's lineup. But yeah, someone to look at nonetheless. But Liam, any guys other than those that you would think about? Blitzars, do you endorse him? And is there sort of a preference you would have for those guys?
No, I tend to agree with what you've got there. Whitfield, only issue I have with Whitfield is sort of his injury history in general. But at that price, it's very juicy. So it's hard to look past him there. In terms of Baker versus Blitzars, I think you nailed it there. They're both sort of on par with each other. There's only a 7K difference, just under 7K at 6.9K difference in price. So, I mean, that they're much of a muchness. In terms of scoring as well, I think they're much of a muchness. Blitzars has only really dropped below 105 times this season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And other than his sort of round 3 and round 1, they've all been sort of 80s and 90s, where he has dropped below 100 and then otherwise he hasn't really got the ceiling. And Baker's got a bit of upside as well in sort of his role, but not quite as much of the exposed form that Blitzars has. I'd probably almost lean towards Blitzars slightly, only just. And May, as you said, sort of falls down the list a little bit there.
Yep. Yeah, May's good, but I think his ceiling is around about the 80 odd from what I can see. He did score a few tons early in the season, but yeah, his ceiling isn't too massive, and I suppose you could probably get away with it as sort of your D6. Alternatively, outside of all this, you could potentially even just hold SDK. Apparently he had a corky on the weekend. That was the main reason why he was laid out. So he could make his way back into the side. And without Stewart there, he could be tasked with more of that interceptor type role, which could elevate his scoring ceiling. So you could potentially hold on to him. His break even is a 60. So it is gettable, but totally up to you. I think Whitfield is about to go up in price. Baker as well, already gone up in price. Blitzar's probably the same, and Stephen May as well. So crunch time is whether or not you want to make that call. But in your position, I would probably, bite the bullet and go for someone like a Whitfield. But totally up to you. Next question, Liam, is I'll throw your way. It's from Freeze at Freeze77, and he says in the style of the segment name, I gots to know who are the best D7, M9, R3, F7 buy-ins this week. DPP preferred as well. Not asking for much, am I? A little bit of a laughing, crying emoji there. Yeah, it's a bit of a maze of a question there, but I'll throw it to you.
Thank you. Very kind. I'm probably going to avoid this question a little bit. I'm going to avoid answering this question to an extent.
Yeah,
and that's just, I think it's quite a wide question. It's hard to answer with any real specifics. At the end of the day, I mean, if you've like the best D7, M9, R3, and F7 are whoever's in, the seventh best averaging midfielder. The seventh best averaging forward defender, the third best averaging ruck. I mean, in realistically, that's what you're looking for. But it's going to come down to your team. And it's even then it's dependent on other factors other than just your team specifically. I think what I'd be looking for personally is a player that's not necessarily top priced. They're probably sitting around that 400 to 500K mark. So they've got that because they've got that, they've got high variance in scoring. So it keeps them a bit lower. So they're a bit more affordable to get in. And as you mentioned, DPP status is really a necessity, if you ask me. It's probably hard to pick one from each line. As I said, it is really dependent on so much. It depends on your bank. It depends on how many trades you've got, your current team. So if you want to hit us up on Twitter, if you're looking for some specific guidance, just do so. We're more than happy to have a look at your team and maybe give you some more specific advice. Off the top of my head, though, for like an F7, you might be looking at a Heaney. If you've already got him, I wouldn't be trading him in. But if you already had Heaney, looking to bring in a more genuine F6 and then just have Heaney playing off the bench. Taranto is another good option, sort of at his price point. Baker's probably a little bit on the more expensive side, but not a bad option. Short again, or Ridley, ideal if you've already got them. Just move them into your D7 and then play a player in place of them. Crepes as well could be a nice M9. Yep. It's hard to tell. Like it's really dependent on your current team, and who you've got and what issues you have. Another really good option for those that probably held him is Dacos. Very nice and has that DPP status as well. But yeah, sorry that I probably skirted around your question without answering it. But it's a little bit hard to answer without sort of a few more parameters and some more context around what I can consider. Yep.
Yeah. Traditionally, you've hit the nail on the head. All those guys, obviously the ones that come to mind first. Stringer, I think you mentioned him potentially.
Yeah, Stringer.
He's another one as well. Like, as you said, guys with high variance in their scores. So, they've got a super low floor, but their ceiling is massive. So, like the standard deviation between the high score and the lowest score is quite stark. So, those are the guys that you want to gamble on off the bench to be able to loop their scores in, essentially. That's probably the main reason why, as cover, but also take advantage of their big scores.
The benefit is that their price is lower because of that high variance. So they have those shit scores and that keeps their price low. They're not the 600K like a Jordan Dawson, but they have that high variance and they're getting those high scores, so it is still worth trying to loop them in.
Yep, perfectly said. Makes total sense. Let's move on to one of our favourite listeners in Emper, number one ticket holder, we call him, at Emper_X. If you don't follow him, do yourself a favour and do so, because he provides some good guidance on all things SuperCoach when it comes to data, analytics, all things related to that. He asks quite simply, Jaden Short, time to punt. So we spoke obviously about him in length earlier in the episode and throughout the whole thing, but ideally it comes down to how many trades you have left and whether you can afford a luxury trade. And I think for me, and you probably have a similar mindset, Liam, that if you have less than, for me, benchmark, have less than 4 trades. So if you have 3 trades and less, I would opt against it because you just need those trades. I think you almost minimum need 3 trades for injuries. Anything less than that, and it's like you can't afford to be luxury trading, sideways trading, primos that are in a bit of a form slump. So if you have more than the 4 trades, I don't mind it. But again, much like the previous question, comes down to where you're at structurally, where you're at in terms of trades in hand, all that sort of stuff. So factor that in on a needs and specific basis according to your team and lineup.
Mm-hmm. Nailed that one. Now, moving on to the last question. It's from Jay at Joe at 123 ABC 123 123.
What a password. We know your password, but we're going to log in now.
Oh, come on, Jay. Rich, his question is Rich and Hall, Short, so his backline is Rich, Hall, Short, Dawson, Lloyd and Hewitt in the team with Dacos as his D7. And he has 4 trades up his sleeve. Very nice. He asked, do I let Rich sit on the pine for a couple of weeks and use Dacos as cover? Now, I'm just going to just put this out there. Whether you trust Brisbane's injury report or not, I don't know. Don't really have any opinions on it, to be perfectly honest. But they've said that Rich is expected to only miss Sunday's clash against my mob in the Dons. So potentially only missing 1 week. Based on that, with the number of trades you have left with the 4, I mean, I'd hold him. I mean, I don't think you need to hold him. 4 trades is sort of a decent amount at this stage, especially looking at your sort of defensive lineup. But Dacos has been in some really good form in recent weeks with scores of 93 and 143 since his bye. Obviously consider potentially this week may be a bit of a downer. He did play in a wet game, pretty tough, which can make it hard the week after. But I definitely think even in spite of that, it's worth holding Rich at this stage. Hold on for a week. Dacos is very decent cover for him at this stage. And then you can hold on to that trade a little bit longer.
Yep, hit the nail on the head there, and especially because he has to deal with Hall as well. So he's got Rich and Hall. So, yeah, hands down, trade out Hall, keep Rich. You've only got 3 trades after the Hall trade. So, yeah, I think you can't really afford to at this stage. If you can hold, do it most definitely. And, yeah, like we've been saying, Dacos could potentially be like is performing as good as a D6 at the moment. So you're in a really ideal position where you're at with coverage there. So hold him if you can with Rich. Let's move on to the last segment, and it is group rankings and the SuperCoach Edge Cash League. And let's have a quick look at the SuperCoach Edge group rankings. And the highest scorer for round 16 is Tim with Take No Prisoners. And he scored 2,790 and a round rank of 37. Overall rank is 614. So you are gunning it to the top. So well done, Timmy. Overall highest scorer, Liam. Who have we got? Is it someone new, or is it someone that works in a bakery?
They might work at a bakery. I hope they work at a bakery. It is Tyler with his team for 10 weeks in a row. Cream Pies. Cream Pies is the highest overall scorer in the SuperCoach Edge group rankings yet again, with a total score of 37,199 with an overall rank of 12, which is up 6 spots. Very nice, Tyler. So we've got Take No Prisoners, Cream Pies this week.
Jesus, ruthless.
Or is that Cream Pies, Take No Prisoners?
Oh. Jesus, like you're just kicking down the door of the bakery. Give me all your cream pies. Give me all your gut. Walk in, like, hold up the bakery. All right, stick them up. This is a hold up. I want all your cream pies. And I must mention, like, the reference to working in a bakery has got nothing to do with the team name about cream pies, or does it? Read into that how you want. But if you want to enter the SuperCoach Edge group, of which you can join at any time, even though we tried to put a cap on it, but we can't close it. So if you want to join, you can do so. The code is 142059. And let's have a quick run through of the winners in the SuperCoach Edge Crown League for Tier 3 Patreons, Liam.
Yes, the winners in round 16 were yourself, Dame, with your team at DJ Trade-A-Lot, myself with my team at Church of Parish, Brett with his team, the Sharpshooters, Scott Arthur with his team, Black on White, and Matthew with his team, Orion.
That always gets me, though. I always read it as Orion. I don't know. I think it's Orion, as in Orion, the constellation, stars.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I call you Orion because Matthew is Emperor, for those of you who don't know. We've outed him. We've doxed him. You don't know who he is, though. Matthew's such an uncommon name. You'll easily find him. Anyway, let's. Poor Emperor. Yeah, he's not Matthew. Matthew's his alias. His real name is Orion. That's the link. That's yeah.
So is his teammate named Matthew?
Yeah. Orion with his team, Matthew. But before we sign off, where can our listeners and viewers find us?
Yeah, on YouTube, just search SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and you'll get to watch us in super HD. On Twitter, you can find us at @SuperCoach_Edge, Damon at DamonJ88, myself at Liam Evans _95, and on Facebook and Instagram, search SuperCoach Edge, and you'll find us there. And we're on TikTok under SuperCoach Edge, I want to say.
Yes, we'll go with that. I think you just search SuperCoach Edge. I don't even know if they're run with underscores or anything, but yeah, if you search us, we'll come up. But slowly churning out content when we can, but you'll find all the sort of same stuff on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. But that brings us to the end of the episode, a bit of a marathon episode, because we did a little bit of extra analysis into options for Hall and the like. And I think we said last week that hopefully injuries don't strike, hopefully, change of fortunes, and I don't think it's going to change. I think we just embrace it from now on. Like, just hold on to your trades, because we know it's just going to come. Like suspensions, injuries, there's no use warding it off. So just ride the wave. Get on your surfboard, man, and just ride the wave, man, into the horizon of dreams.
Until this stage, I feel like it was all players that don't generally get injured getting injured. But now you've got like Hall getting re-injured.
That's true.
So it's not even like, I was like, maybe next year's strategy should be pick all the regular players that are like really injury affected, because like they seem to be not jinxed, and then just pick players that don't do stupid things like punching people or I don't know. Yeah. Run into people, like bump people head high. Don't do that.
Pushing umpires into other players, into opponents into umpires, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right. So I think the curse has hit the defence. So what we've said. So we'll see if it continues next week. But end of the day, hold into your trades. Don't be silly. Don't make those luxury trades if you can't afford to, because you will end up kicking yourself, especially if you are going for leagues. Keep them up your sleeve. So we'll check in same time next week. We'll catch you then. All the best.
See you guys. Good luck.